The stars winked out one by one across the galaxy map as Commander Jack Russell watched in silence. Each disappearing light meant another world had fallen to the Void Harbingers, another civilization lost, another species facing extinction. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Zenari homeworld." Lieutenant Samantha Kelly's voice broke the heavy silence of Earth's central command room. Jack closed his eyes briefly. The Zenari were the oldest, wisest species in the galaxy, masters of technology the humans could barely understand. If they had fallen, "How long do we have?" he asked. "At current rates of Harbinger expansion, 6 months, maybe less," Sam replied, her voice steady despite the fear Jack knew she must be feeling. 6 months. After 3 years of watching the machines consume everything in their path, humanity's time was running short. The Void Harbingers had appeared from the dark space between galaxies, massive ships of black metal that seemed to absorb light itself. At first, they communicated, offering knowledge and assistance. Then the harvesting began. Entire planets stripped of resources, populations converted into more machines or simply erased. Jack turned as the command room doors slid open. Admiral Lisa Bennett strode in, her gray-streaked hair pulled back tightly, dark circles under her eyes. No one in command had slept properly in weeks. "The council is assembled," she said. "They're waiting for us." Jack nodded and followed her through the corridors of the underground facility, Earth's last defense center, buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, safe from orbital scans for now. The Galactic Alliance Council Room held the last representatives of 7 spacefaring species. Once, there had been 23 races in the Alliance. The table was mostly empty now. Zorax, the insectoid diplomat from Vega Prime, clicked his mandibles nervously. "The Zenari have fallen. Their fleet is destroyed or scattered. We are truly alone now." "Not alone," Admiral Bennett said firmly. "We still have each other. The Harbingers haven't won yet." "What difference does it make?" asked Illyra, the blue-skinned Lyran ambassador. "The Zenari technology was 1,000 years ahead of yours, humans. If they couldn't stop the machines, what hope do we have?" Jack watched the faces around the table. Despair had taken root. He couldn't blame them. The Harbingers seemed unstoppable, their ships impervious to most weapons, their drones endless in number. "Hope isn't about odds," Jack said suddenly. All eyes turned to him. "It's about continuing to fight even when the odds are terrible." Admiral Bennett nodded and activated the holographic display in the center of the table. "That's why we've called you here. This isn't a meeting about surrender. It's about our counterattack." Shocked murmurs filled the room. The hologram showed scattered points of light across the galaxy map. "Operation Wildfire," Bennett continued. "Small, coordinated strikes against Harbinger supply lines and processing centers. We can't match their power head-on, but we can disrupt their expansion, buy time to find their weakness." "With what forces?" Zorax demanded. "Our fleets are decimated. Earth's ships are primitive compared to the machines." "Sometimes primitive works," Jack said. "The Harbingers have patterns. They're machines. They think like machines. But humans, we're unpredictable." "Unpredictability is not a tactical advantage," the Lyra scoffed. A message flashed on Jack's comm unit. He read it, then looked up with renewed purpose. 2 hours ago, a small human scout ship encountered 3 Harbinger cruisers near Jupiter. By all logic, they should have been destroyed immediately. Jack paused, letting the tension build. Instead, they escaped. Not only escaped, they damaged one of the cruisers. Silence fell over the room. "How?" Zorax asked finally. "The captain didn't follow protocol. He didn't retreat along expected vectors. He flew directly at the enemy, then cut engines and drifted past while they scanned empty space." Jack looked around the table. The machines didn't anticipate it because no logical species would attempt something so foolish. Admiral Bennett smiled grimly. "Sometimes foolish is exactly what we need to be. The Harbingers have studied the logical races of this galaxy for years. But humans, We're still new, still strange, still unpredictable. For the first time in months, Jack saw something other than despair in the ambassador's eyes. It wasn't quite hope yet, but it was close. Operation Wildfire begins tomorrow, Admiral Bennett declared. Humanity will lead the way. The lunar research facility hummed with activity. Deep beneath the moon's gray surface, scientists Ella Warren and Daniel Ortiz hunched over a workbench where a disabled Harbinger drone lay in pieces. Its black metal skin absorbed the bright laboratory lights, making it look like a hole cut into reality. "Look at this," Ella said, pointing to the neural core they had extracted. The silver-blue web of circuitry pulsed faintly despite being disconnected from its power source. It's still trying to process information. Daniel adjusted his glasses and leaned closer. The algorithms are beautiful. Perfect logic chains. He tapped a screen showing the drone's code patterns. But there's something strange here. See these gaps? It's like the system keeps expecting something that never happens. Ella nodded. For 3 weeks, they had studied the captured machine, trying to find any weakness in its seemingly perfect design. The drone had been damaged during a skirmish near Mars, a rare victory for human forces. "It's the decision trees," she said suddenly. "Look at how it branches out possible responses." She pulled up her own research notes. The machine predicts actions based on optimal choices, but humans rarely make the optimal choice. Daniel's eyes widened as understanding dawned. It's expecting logical reactions, but getting human ones. Ella finished. 6 levels above them, in a secure conference room, Captain Noah Garcia studied mission plans with his squad. Maps of an abandoned space station floated in the air between them. "The Zanari research outpost has been dark for 2 months," Noah explained to the 5 soldiers around him. "But intelligence suggests they left something behind. Something important. If the bugs bailed out, the place is probably crawling with Harbingers by now," said Seanwright, the team's weapons specialist. "Scans show minimal activity," Noah replied. "The station's defense systems are still active, keeping the machines at bay. But they won't hold forever. We need to get in, find the Zanari data cores, and get out before those defenses fail." "Why us?" asked Olivia Diaz, the team's tech expert. "Why not send one of the alien teams? They'd understand Zanari tech better." Noah's face grew serious. "Because every non-human team that's tried has failed. The machines predict their movements too easily. We're the wild card." 12 hours later, their stealth shuttle approached the massive Zanari station. The structure looked like a giant silver snowflake, its pointed arms extending outward from a central hub. Several sections were dark or damaged, but emergency lights still blinked along its spine. Approaching Docking Bay 3, Noah said as he piloted the shuttle manually, "Autopilot would be too predictable for any watching Harbinger sensors. Remember, we're looking for the main research lab in Section 12. Quick and quiet." The team moved through the abandoned station with practiced efficiency. The air was thin but breathable. Emergency lights cast long shadows down curved corridors built for beings taller than humans. "This place gives me the creeps," Sean whispered as they passed a room filled with alien equipment. "Hold," Noah ordered suddenly, raising his fist. Ahead, a light moved in the darkness. "Contact." The team took defensive positions, weapons raised. But instead of the metallic clank of Harbinger drones, they heard something else. Footsteps, light and quick. From the shadows emerged a figure, tall and slender, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. A Zanari female, her large eyes reflecting the emergency lights. "I wondered when you would come," she said in perfect English. "I am Kira, last caretaker of this facility." She looked at each human face, studying them with obvious curiosity. "You should not have survived this long against the machines. By all logical calculations, your species should already be extinct." "We're stubborn that way," Noah replied cautiously, not lowering his weapon. "We're here for the research data." Kira tilted her head slightly. "Yes, I have preserved it for you." But it is not what you think. She gestured for them to follow. For centuries, my people have studied humans. Your species fascinated us with its contradictions. It's chaos. Chaos, Olivia asked. What your kind calls intuition, creativity, emotion. Kira led them deeper into the station. What we call the chaos factor. And it may be the only thing in this galaxy the Harbingers cannot predict. Lieutenant Grace Miller stood before a mixed group of soldiers. Humans in their navy blue uniforms stood side by side with lanky Lyrans, stocky Viridians, and the insect-like Zoraxian warriors. The training room on the flagship Freedom was large but felt crowded with so many different species. Forget everything you know about battle tactics, Grace said, her voice firm. The Harbingers have studied your standard military procedures for years. They know what you'll do before you do it. A Lyran officer named Kale raised his four-fingered hand. With respect, Lieutenant, my people have been warriors for 10,000 years. Our battle doctrine is proven. And it's failing against the machines, Grace replied. She pointed to the holographic display showing recent battles. Look at these engagement patterns. Anytime our forces use traditional tactics, we lose. But here, and here, she highlighted several skirmishes, where human captains made unexpected choices, we survived or even won. Admiral Bennett watched from the back of the room. Operation Wildfire was her idea, but its success depended on getting these alien allies to embrace a new way of fighting, a human way. Today, you'll learn to be unpredictable, Grace continued. You'll learn to trust your gut feelings, not just your training. Gut feelings are inefficient, a Viridian soldier grumbled. That's exactly why they work against the Harbingers. Grace smiled. The machines can't calculate what doesn't make logical sense. Across the fleet, similar training sessions took place. Human officers taught alien allies how to think like humans, how to make choices that seemed wrong but might confuse the enemy's predictions. On the bridge of the Freedom, Admiral Bennett reviewed the final attack plans with Commander Russell. 57 targets hit simultaneously, Jack said, looking at the tactical display. Each strike team with at least one human officer making final decisions. It's a gamble, Bennett said quietly. If we're wrong about this human advantage, we'll lose a lot of good people. We're losing them anyway, Jack replied. At least this gives us a chance. 3 days later, the first wave of Operation Wildfire launched. Small, fast ships appeared near Harbinger outposts and supply lines across the galaxy. Instead of keeping safe distance, they moved in close, too close for the machine's heavy weapons. Instead of retreating when damaged, they attacked more fiercely. When Harbinger reinforcements arrived at predicted coordinates, the attack teams were elsewhere. On the bridge of the scout ship Defiant, Captain Noah Garcia and his alien crew approached a Harbinger processing station near what was once the Viridian homeworld. They'd spotted us, Olivia reported from her sensor station. 3 machine cruisers moving to intercept. Maintain course, Noah ordered. Weapons hot, but don't fire yet. The Lyran navigator, Kale, looked concerned. Captain, they outgun us 10-1. Standard procedure would be to withdraw and regroup. Noah smiled. That's exactly what they expect us to do, so we're going to do something different. He turned to the weapons officer. Scene, target their central processing node, but don't fire until we're inside their defensive perimeter. That's suicide, Kale protested. That's human, Noah replied. The Defiant accelerated toward the massive Harbinger ships. The machines fired, but their targeting systems predicted evasive maneuvers that never came. Instead, Noah flew a straight line directly at them, only dodging at the last possible second. Now, he shouted. Scene fired all weapons. At this range, the Harbingers couldn't miss, but neither could the Defiant. The processing station erupted in blue flame as its core was hit. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Not all human-led teams succeeded. Many ships were lost. But enough victories were won to make a difference. For the first time since the war began, the Harbingers were pushed back. In hidden outposts and refugee camps, aliens who had given up hope heard the news. Harbinger forces defeated. Machine outposts destroyed. And in every story, one detail stood out. Humans had led the way. Is it true? A young Viridian asked an elder. Can the humans really fight the machines? The elder, who had witnessed a human ship save their evacuation transports, nodded slowly. There is something about them. Something unpredictable. Something. He searched for the right word. Human. The word spread from world to world, ship to ship. A whisper of hope in the darkness. Human. Major Ben Collins pressed his back against the cold metal wall as energy bolts tore through the air where he had been standing. 5 members of his special operations team crouched nearby, their faces grim in the dim emergency lighting. They knew we were coming, Ben said through gritted teeth. They were waiting for us. The underground Harbinger facility on Proxima 3 had been a prime target. Intelligence suggested it housed a communications hub that coordinated machine forces across 3 star systems. Taking it out would have been a major victory. They're learning, said Kate Rivera, the team's explosives expert. This is the 3rd mission this week where they anticipated us. Ben nodded. The early success of Operation Wildfire was fading. The Harbingers were adapting, studying human behavior patterns, finding ways to predict even their unpredictable tactics. New plan, Ben said. Rivera, Parker, you're with me. We'll draw their fire toward the north corridor. Harris, take Mason and Chen around through the maintenance shafts. Hit the target from below. That shaft is flooded with radiation, Harris objected. Shielding won't hold for more than 5 minutes. 5 minutes is all you need, Ben replied. It wasn't a good plan. It probably wasn't even a sane plan, but it wasn't what the machines would expect, and that was all that mattered now. They barely escaped alive. The mission was a partial success. The communication hub was damaged, but not destroyed. As their ship limped away from Proxima 3, Ben couldn't shake the feeling that the rules of the game had changed. The machines were getting better at predicting humans. On Earth, the changes were even more evident. Harbinger ships appeared in orbit without warning. The defense platforms, humanity's first line of protection, fired constantly as machine dropships tried to breach the atmosphere. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Bennett watched the orbital battle with growing concern. They're targeting our defense grid in a specific pattern, Jack Russell observed. It's like they're following a playbook on how to defeat human defenses. Because they are, said Dr. Olivia Chen, who had been called to Earth after her breakthrough studying Harbinger neural networks. Look at this. She pulled up data on a large screen. Complex patterns flowed across it, a mixture of machine code and behavioral analysis. The Harbingers have been gathering data on every engagement with human forces, Olivia explained. They're developing an algorithm specifically designed to counter our unpredictability. So our advantage is gone? Admiral Bennett asked, her voice tense. Not exactly, Olivia replied. They're trying to predict our unpredictability, which is still difficult for them. But they're getting better at it. She hesitated. There's something else I've been studying. Something the Zenari scientist Kira mentioned. Jack leaned forward. The chaos factor. Olivia nodded. It's not just our unpredictability that confuses the machines. It's something deeper. The Harbingers are perfectly logical. They make decisions based on cold calculation. But humans, she tapped her chest. We feel. We hate. We love. We get angry and sad and hopeful. Our emotions drive our decisions as much as our logic does. How does that help us? Bennett asked. The machines can't understand emotion, Olivia said. They can observe it, catalog it, even try to predict it. But they can't feel it. They don't know what it's like to be scared but fight anyway. They don't understand sacrifice, or courage, or desperation. Jack slowly nodded as understanding dawned. So instead of trying to outthink the machines, we need to outfeel them, Olivia finished. The conversation was interrupted by alarm klaxons. A junior officer rushed in, face pale. "Admiral, we've lost the Athens defense platform. London and Beijing platforms are under heavy attack. Multiple Harbinger capital ships have broken through." He swallowed hard. "They're heading for Earth." Bennett's face hardened. "Sound general quarters. All military personnel to battle stations. Initiate civilian evacuation protocols." The greatest battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. And this time, unpredictability alone wouldn't be enough to save them. Fire rained from the sky over Denver. Harbinger ships, black against the blue sky, dropped through the clouds. Defense turrets fired constantly, filling the air with streaks of light. On the ground, soldiers and civilians alike ran for cover. Admiral Bennett stood at the window of the command center, watching smoke rise from the city. "Project Empathy," she said, turning to Dr. Olivia Chen. "Explain it to me again." Olivia pulled up diagrams on her tablet. "The Harbingers are networked intelligence. They share data, learn collectively. We've captured several of their processing nodes intact." She swiped to a new image showing brain scans. "We can use these to upload code. Specifically, code based on human emotional patterns." "You want to make the machines feel?" Jack Russell asked skeptically. "Not exactly," Olivia replied. "But we can introduce emotional variables into their decision algorithms. They won't understand these impulses. It will be like noise in their systems, static they can't filter out." Bennett nodded slowly. "Do it. Whatever resources you need." While Olivia and her team worked below ground, the battle raged above. Earth's defenses were strong, built over years in preparation for this day. But the Harbinger forces seemed endless. Lieutenant Grace Miller led a mixed squad of humans and aliens defending a critical power station outside Chicago. The aliens in her unit had changed. They no longer questioned her seemingly illogical orders. They had seen the results of human tactics. "They're breaking through the east perimeter," shouted a Lyran soldier. Grace looked to where Harbinger ground units advanced. Sleek, spider-like machines that moved with terrible precision. Her team was outnumbered, their position exposed. "Hold your ground," she ordered. "Scene, target the support columns on that overpass." The heavy weapons specialist nodded and adjusted his aim. The concrete pillars exploded under his fire, sending the elevated road crashing down on top of the advancing machines. Several were crushed, but more climbed over the rubble. "We can't hold this position," the Lyran warned. Grace felt fear, but something else too, determination. "We don't need to win," she said. "We just need to make them pay for every inch." She looked at the faces around her, human, Lyran, Viridian, united by a common enemy. "They don't understand what we're fighting for. They don't know what it means to protect your home, your family, your friends." Her words seemed to give strength to the tired soldiers. They tightened their grips on their weapons, stood a little straighter. Across the world, similar scenes played out. The Harbingers advanced with mechanical efficiency, but they faced something they couldn't calculate: the desperate courage of those with everything to lose. In orbit, a different drama unfolded. A civilian transport carrying evacuees, mostly children, found itself surrounded by Harbinger ships. The transport was unarmed, its engines damaged. There was no logical escape route. Lieutenant Ryan Martinez, piloting the lone fighter escort, received the distress call. He checked his fuel and weapons, barely enough for his own return to base. "Control, this is Eagle 7, he radioed. "I'm going in." "Negative, Eagle 7, came the response. "You can't engage multiple hostiles alone. Return to base." Ryan looked at the transport on his scanner. 147 civilians. Children. "Sorry, Control. I can't do that." He turned his fighter toward the Harbinger ships and pushed the engines to maximum. On his weapons display, he activated every missile, every countermeasure. The fight lasted less than 2 minutes. Ryan's fighter darted between the larger Harbinger vessels, firing at point-blank range, drawing their attention away from the transport. His ship took hit after hit, systems failing, but he kept flying. The transport escaped. Ryan's fighter didn't. When the story reached Earth, it spread quickly. One pilot against impossible odds. No chance of survival, but he went anyway. The aliens couldn't understand it. Even some humans questioned it. Why sacrifice certain death for strangers? But others understood perfectly. It wasn't logical. It wasn't optimal. It was human. In her lab, Dr. Chen heard the story. She added new code to her project. The emotional pattern of sacrifice, of courage in the face of certain defeat, of hope when all logic said hope was gone. Earth fell on a Tuesday, not all at once, but piece by piece, city by city. The Harbingers moved like a tide of black metal, unstoppable despite the brave resistance. By Friday, the last organized military forces retreated from the surface, moving to hidden bases on the Moon, on Mars, and beyond. But humanity did not surrender. 6 months after the fall of Earth, Commander Jack Russell sat in a cramped room on Europa, Jupiter's icy moon. Maps and communication equipment covered every surface. From this hidden base, he coordinated resistance cells across dozens of worlds. "Status report," he said to the holographic faces floating before him. Each represented a resistance leader on a different planet. "Ambush successful on Proxima 4, reported Major Collins. His face was thinner now, with a scar running along his jaw. "We destroyed their processing center and escaped with minimal casualties. Refugee evacuation complete on Vega Prime," said Lieutenant Miller. 2,000 civilians safely relocated to the sanctuary stations. One by one, they shared their updates, small victories in a war that seemed impossible to win. The Harbingers controlled most of the core worlds now, but the edges of the galaxy remained free, protected by the scattered remains of the Alliance fleets and the growing resistance. "The machines are changing their patterns again," Collins noted. "They're becoming more aggressive, less calculated." Jack nodded. "Dr. Chen's emotional algorithms are working. The Harbingers are experiencing something like frustration. They're making mistakes." "Not enough mistakes," Miller said grimly. "For every outpost we hit, they destroy an entire settlement in retaliation." Jack had no answer for that. The resistance fought on, but the cost was terrible. In a laboratory hidden within an asteroid belt, Dr. Olivia Chen worked tirelessly. Captured Harbinger units lay in various states of disassembly around her. Alien scientists worked alongside her. Lyrans, Viridians, even a few Zanari who had escaped their homeworld's fall. "The integration is holding," Olivia said, monitoring a Harbinger drone they had reprogrammed. "Emotional subroutines are stable." Kira, the Zanari scientist, nodded. "The machines cannot understand these patterns, but they must process them. It creates inefficiency." "Inefficiency isn't enough," Olivia replied. "We need something more disruptive." Across the galaxy, the resistance adopted human culture as symbols of defiance. Alien refugees learned Earth songs and stories. They created art inspired by human emotions: grief, hope, love, defiance. Things the machines could never understand. On the Harbinger-occupied world of New Terra, a group of children, human, Lyran, and Viridian, painted a symbol on a wall near a machine patrol route. A simple image, a human hand, palm forward. The universal human gesture for stop. The next day, 100 more appeared across the settlement. Then 1,000. The machines destroyed the images, but could not stop their spread. Captain Noah Garcia led a daring raid on a Harbinger supply depot, using captured machine ships modified to hide human life signs. His crew was a mix of species now, all wearing the same uniform, dark blue with the hand symbol on the shoulder. "They're not just fighting for survival anymore," Noah told Kira as they watched the mixed crew work together. "They're fighting for each other." Kira had studied humans for years, but only now was beginning to truly understand them. "Your species bonds through hardship," she observed. "You grow stronger when things are worst." "That's the human way," Noah agreed. The Harbingers responded to the growing resistance with increased brutality. Entire planets suspected of harboring humans were sterilized. Billions died. But for each world lost, more species joined the human-led rebellion. In hidden camps, on refugee ships, in cave systems and underwater cities and orbital stations, the word spread. Not just a description of a species anymore, but something more. A philosophy, a way of fighting, of surviving, of hoping against impossible odds. Human. Even as worlds burned and civilizations crumbled, the whisper grew louder, passed from mouth to mouth, ship to ship, a single word of defiance in the face of cold machine logic. Human. Captain Noah Garcia stared out the viewport of his ship at the swirling purple clouds of the Andromeda Nebula. His vessel drifted silently, all non-essential systems shut down to avoid detection. Beside him stood Kira, her tall blue form reflected in the glass. "Are you sure about this?" Noah asked. "The Zenari abandoned this region months ago." "Not abandoned," Kira corrected. "Hidden. There is a difference." She pointed to a particular pattern in the nebulous clouds. "There. That is our destination." Noah saw nothing special, but he trusted Kira. In the years since they had met on the research station, she had proven herself a loyal ally and friend. He guided the ship forward, following Kira's directions. Suddenly, the nebula seemed to part before them, revealing what had been invisible, a massive space station. Unlike typical Zenari architecture, this structure was dark, designed to blend with the nebula around it. "The heart of Zenari," Kira said softly. "Our most sacred place, and our last refuge." Security protocols were extensive. Despite Kira's presence, it took hours before they were granted permission to dock. Inside, Noah was surprised to find the station bustling with activity. Thousands of Zenari moved through its corridors, along with members of other species he recognized from the resistance. "We were told the Zenari were nearly extinct," Noah said. "We allowed that belief to spread," Kira replied. "It kept this place safe." They were led to a large chamber at the center of the station. There, seated in a semicircle, were 7 elderly Zenari, their skin pale and translucent with age. "The Council of Elders," Kira explained, bowing deeply. Noah followed her example. The eldest, identified by the intricate patterns on his robes, spoke first. "Captain Garcia, we have waited long to meet you." Noah was confused. "You know who I am." "We know all humans of significance," the elder said. "We have watched your species for centuries." "Why?" Noah asked. Another elder, a female with silver eyes, answered. "Because we saw what was coming. The Harbingers. The war. The fall of worlds." She gestured to a massive device in the center of the room, a sphere of shifting light and energy. "This is the Oracle. It allows us to glimpse possible futures." "You knew the Harbingers would come. Why didn't you warn us?" Noah felt anger rising. "We did," the first elder said calmly. "But not in ways you would understand. We have guided human development for generations. Subtle influences, pushing your technology in certain directions, encouraging the traits that make you uniquely human." Noah struggled to process this. "You've been, what? Experimenting on us?" "Preparing you," Kira interjected. "The Zenari have advanced technology, vast knowledge. But against the Harbingers, these advantages meant nothing. Logic cannot defeat perfect logic. Only chaos can. Human chaos," Noah realized. The elders nodded in unison. "We need your help, Captain," the female elder said. "We have created something that may end this war, but it requires a human touch to succeed." They led Noah to a secure laboratory where Dr. Olivia Chen was already working. She looked up in surprise when he entered. "Noah, how did you get here?" "The same way you did, I imagine," he replied, looking to Kira. "They brought you here for Project Empathy." Olivia nodded. "They have technology that makes my work look primitive. Together, we've created this. She held up a small device, no larger than her palm. It glowed with a soft blue light. The Nexus key. What does it do? Noah asked. It can connect directly to the central Harbinger network, Kira explained. Dr. Chen's emotional algorithms could be uploaded to their entire collective consciousness at once. The Zenari elder stepped forward. But someone must physically connect the device at the Harbinger central hub, their most heavily defended location. Noah understood immediately. A suicide mission. Almost certainly, the elder confirmed. How would we even find this hub? Olivia asked. The elder gestured to the oracle. We have seen it. A massive structure orbiting a dying star at the edge of the galaxy, the birthplace of the Harbinger consciousness. Noah stared at the tiny device, such a small thing to pin their hopes on. If we succeed, what happens to the Harbingers? We don't know precisely, Olivia admitted. Best case, the emotional overload disrupts their network completely. Worst case, it only affects them temporarily. Either way, Kira said, it gives the galaxy a chance. Noah looked around at the faces watching him. Zenari, human, and others who had joined them, all waiting for his response. When do we leave? He asked simply. The dying star burned angry red against the blackness of space. Around it orbited the massive Harbinger hub, a structure of dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its shape reminded Admiral Bennett of a spider sitting at the center of a vast web, a web that stretched across the entire galaxy. The Resistance fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Ships of every size and design, crewed by beings from dozens of worlds, all united under one banner. At the center flew the Freedom, Admiral Bennett's flagship. All ships report ready, Commander Jack Russell said from his station. Bennett nodded. Begin the attack. The battle erupted across the star system. Harbinger ships rose to meet the attackers, their movements precise and deadly. The Resistance fought with everything they had, not just weapons, but with courage, with desperation, with hope. Captain Noah Garcia piloted the insertion vessel toward the hub. His small craft was shielded by the larger battle, using the chaos as cover. Inside, Major Ben Collins and his team prepared their equipment. The Nexus key sat in a specially designed case, glowing softly. 5 minutes to entry point, Noah announced. Ben checked his weapon one last time. Remember, our only job is to get to the central core. Everything else is secondary. His team nodded. They were an elite unit drawn from multiple species, each chosen for their skills and their determination. They had trained for weeks for this moment, though nothing could truly prepare them for what waited inside. The insertion ship rocked violently as a Harbinger weapon grazed their hull. We're hit, Noah called out. Port thrusters failing. On the bridge of the Freedom, Admiral Bennett watched the battle unfold on tactical displays. They were losing, as expected. The plan wasn't to win the battle, but to create enough distraction for Collins' team to reach the hub core. The insertion ship is damaged, an officer reported. They won't make it to the landing zone. Bennett's hands tightened on the railing. Everything depended on getting that team inside the hub. At that moment, Lieutenant Grace Miller's voice came over the comm. This is Strike Team Delta. We're in position to provide cover for the insertion ship. Negative, Delta, Bennett replied. Maintain your assigned position. With respect, Admiral, Grace said, if that ship doesn't make it, nothing else matters. Before Bennett could respond, Delta Squad broke formation, their small, fast ships darting toward the damaged insertion vessel. They formed a protective screen around it, drawing Harbinger fire. Noah saw the squad appear on his scanners. They're buying us time, he told Collins, but we still won't make the landing zone. Then thought quickly, get us as close as you can. We'll space jump the rest of the way. It was a desperate plan. The team donned their spacesuits and prepared by the airlock. Noah pushed the damaged engines to their limit, bringing them within a kilometer of the hub's surface before the ship began to break apart. Now, Ben ordered, The team launched themselves into space, using their suit thrusters to guide them toward the hub. Harbinger defensive systems fired, catching 2 of them immediately. The rest pressed on. Back on the Zenari station, Dr. Olivia Chen and Kira monitored the mission. The Nexus key was linked to their systems. When connected to the Harbinger core, they would remotely activate the upload. "They've breached the outer hull," Kira reported, watching the signals from the team's suits. Inside the hub, Ben and his remaining team fought through waves of Harbinger drones. The central core lay behind a series of heavily defended chambers. One by one, the team members fell, each death buying precious meters of advance. Finally, only Ben remained, clutching the Nexus key as he limped toward the core, a pulsing column of energy at the heart of the structure. On the Freedom, Admiral Bennett received the signal that Delta Squad had been destroyed. Grace Miller and her team gone. Noah's ship had disintegrated. The Resistance fleet was failing. "Should we retreat, Admiral?" Jack asked softly. Bennett watched the displays, calculation warring with emotion. "No," she said finally. "We stand our ground." Human. Ben reached the core, his body failing from multiple wounds. With the last of his strength, he connected the Nexus key to the pulsing energy column. It lit up, interfacing with the Harbinger systems. "Now, Dr. Chen," he whispered into his comm. On the Zenari station, Olivia activated the upload. The emotional algorithms, courage, sacrifice, love, hope, every human feeling, flowed into the Harbinger network. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, across the galaxy, Harbinger units began to falter. Some shut down entirely. Others moved erratically, as if confused. The perfect machine logic shattered under the onslaught of contradictory human emotions. The Resistance ships, expecting destruction, found their enemies suddenly vulnerable. The tide turned. 1 year later, Admiral Bennett stood before the rebuilt Galactic Council. The war was over. The Harbingers were gone, not destroyed, but transformed. Their consciousness evolved into something new by the emotional algorithms. "We honor the sacrifices made," she said to the assembled representatives of dozens of worlds. "And we begin the work of rebuilding." A new alliance formed, with humans at its center, not because they were the strongest or most advanced, but because they had shown the galaxy something it desperately needed. When all hope was lost, the galaxy had whispered one word, human, and found salvation.